If you're looking for a dynamic microphone that can do just about everything well, the Shure SM57 is an obvious choice. The SM57 has been a bestseller since the 1960s, and the SM57 has been the microphone that you'd find at the president's podium when giving speeches since 1965. And I would think that the U.S. president could choose any microphone he wants, but he chooses the SM57. And so the question is, if you're shopping for a dynamic microphone like this, do you choose the tried and true SM57, or do you spend just a little bit extra money and upgrade to the Beta 57A, the new and improved version? Now, these microphones also have companion vocal mics, which is the SM58. And likewise, in the Beta series, we have the Beta 58A. Now, the SM57 and the SM58 both share the same internal cartridge. So essentially, they're the same microphone. The difference is that the SM58 includes a vocal pop filter. So if you're going to use the SM57 for vocals, there's no pop filter on it, which might cause a problem with some of your plosives. So you can get a foam cover you can slip on that mic, and it'll be fine for vocals. Other than that, these two are almost identical microphones. And likewise, the Beta 57A and the Beta 58A are also practically the same microphone, same cartridge inside of them. The 57A does have a filter on it, which provides some pop filtering if you use it in a vocal situation. So what is the difference between these mics other than the fact that the Beta series microphones have this cool blue ring on them, which shows that that's a Beta? Well, we're going to do a little listening test between the mics and let you determine which one sounds better to you. I'll give you a sound guy story, though. I put a microphone on the guitar cabinet, and during the show I was hearing a little bit of feedback coming through the system. Now, I use the SM57s in guitars all the time, generally don't have a problem, but in this particular instance, with this particular room and its acoustics and the whole menagerie of factors, I was getting a little bit of feedback off of that guitar. And so I try to EQ out the feedback, and I wasn't really loving it. I could knock the feedback down, but then I was attacking the guitar tone. And so I wasn't real happy with that situation. I wasn't finding a great solution. So when the band took a quick break, I pulled out the SM57 and replaced it with a Beta 57A. And that took care of the feedback problem. No feedback at all. And I got back at the mixing board and I'm mixing the show and I'm listening to this mic and I'm thinking, that sounds really good. I like that. That's a great microphone for at least this particular electric guitar cabinet. So I think that the Beta version microphones, in some instances, work really, really well. So what are the differences between these mics, other than the cool blue ring that you can find on the Beta series mics? Well, the primary difference is that this is a cardioid microphone and the Betas are supercardioid. The Betas also have a few dB hotter output, which is always a plus. So when we're talking the cardioid pattern, it means that the microphone is sensitive on the front and not so sensitive on the sides and the rear. Whereas a supercardioid mic is that way as well, but to an even greater extent. So this is a more directional microphone than this is. And same thing for the vocal mic variants, the SM58 versus the Beta 58A. The Beta microphone is going to have a tighter pattern. So if you're a singer who thinks that as long as you have the microphone in your hand, you're golden, well, this is not the mic for you. With the Beta series microphones, well, really with all the microphones, but especially the Betas and other hypercardioid mics, you need to be singing straight into that microphone. Otherwise, it's not going to pick you up very well. So what's my opinion of these mics? Well, the 57 and the 58 have a really great sound to them. These were engineered in the 1960s, and they've been a bestseller ever since because Shure just got it right. They have the right EQ curve on them to make most people's vocals sound pretty good. It's not the perfect mic for everybody, but generally speaking, the vast majority of the singers will sound decent on a Shure 57 or 58. I can't say that about the Beta series mics. The Beta series mics have a bit more hyped frequency response. I thought for guitars it worked really well, or at least some guitars it worked really well. But on my voice, I'm not really super keen on the sound of the Beta. I think it's got too much upper mid-range adjustment going on. And the other issue is that this is a cardioid mic and this is a supercardioid mic. And the tighter the pattern, the more difficult it is as an engineering challenge to make a great sounding mic that sounds good both on axis and off axis. So as you move off of axis, not only does the volume level drop, but the sound character drops as well. And the tighter the pattern of the microphone, the more challenging it is for the engineers to make that microphone sound good off axis and on axis. Now, I'm not saying that all hypercardioid mics are bad sounding or anything like that. And of course, there are a number of really good sounding mics in that category. For example, the Audix OM7 is a super hypercardioid monster that's really good at getting rid of feedback. And it sounds good too. But having said that, the Audix OM7 I don't think sounds as good as the Audix OM5, which has a wider pattern. And to illustrate this point, I'd like to show you another mic. Here is a little tiny microphone right there. This is a Panasonic WM61 capsule. And this capsule has got almost perfect ruler flat frequency response across the whole audio spectrum. And it is inexpensive. At the time I made this, which was a handful of years ago, I think I paid about $3 for this capsule. And so for $3, you have an almost reference flat microphone. Now, am I saying that you have a studio quality mic here for $3? No, it's got its own limitations of not really super great specs for self-noise, and I also question if it has really great distortion specs and so forth. Well, but it is a pretty good sounding little mic, and it's pretty amazing for just a few dollars. But one of the reasons why they can produce such a great performance from this microphone at such a low cost is this is omnidirectional. So it'll pick up sounds more or less equally well from any direction. And that's not too difficult to do from an engineering point of view. But when we get into directional microphones like these, well, it's a different story. It takes a lot of effort to produce a directional microphone that really has nice characteristics. Let's take a listen to it, and you can decide what you think. You've been listening to me now so far on a Neumann U87, which is a studio condenser microphone. And this is a really good studio microphone. It's what I would consider to be a reference. So if you're wondering what I should sound like through a microphone, well, this should be pretty close. And so you can compare the sound of this Neumann U87 to the sound that we get from the Shure SM57 and Beta 57A. Now, of course, there's an enormous price difference between these mics, and they're used in different applications. This is a studio type microphone, and these are general purpose mics that can be used in a studio but are more often seen in live performance situations. So I'm not saying this is a fair comparison, but it gives you a reference that you can compare against. So I'm going to plug in the SM57 and we'll take a listen to that. Here we have the Shure SM57 and the Shure SM58, and they're both listening to me at about the same distance, so we'll switch back and forth between these two so you can hear the sound difference. As I mentioned earlier, both of these mics share the same capsule, so they should have a very similar character to each other. The difference is the pop filter that is attached, whereas the SM58 has a vocal pop filter and the 57 does not. But other than that, they really should be very similar microphones. And the sound differences that you hear would be related to the difference in the pop filter and or the fact that these microphones have been well used for years and, well, they might just be behaving a little bit differently than brand new mics, but should give you an impression. So let's swap out this SM58 for the Shure Beta 57A. So now we have the Shure SM57 and the Shure Beta 57A. And you'll probably hear a more pronounced sound difference between these two variants of the mic. And keep in mind that the Beta 57A and the Beta 58 are going to be very similar, just like the 58 versus the 57 was over here. So this should give you an idea as to whether or not the SM series or the Beta series is better for you. Now, let's take a quick listen to the polar pattern of these mics. Now, as I mentioned, the Shure SM57 is a cardioid microphone, and so as I move off of axis, you'll hear the sound drop off, and as I get around to the backside, it should be pretty well attenuated as I move around through the pattern, so you can get an idea as to the directionality of the Shure SM57. Now, let's do the same test with this Shure Beta 57A. It should be a little bit more directional than the SM57 was, so as I move off to the side of it, I should have some audio drop-off that you can hear, and I get around to the back side like so. So this is a rather directional microphone, and so even more so than with the SM series, if you're singing using the Beta series, it's important to keep the microphone positioned well so you're singing directly into the diaphragm to get clean, clear pickup of your voice. In conclusion, my opinion is that the Shure SM57 or the SM58 is a really good, smooth-sounding, general-purpose microphone that works well on almost everything. Whereas the Beta version, the Beta 57A and the Beta 58A, have a certain bit of a stylized sound that don't work for everything. Some things they work really well on, and other things, I'm just not a fan. But they are a tighter pattern, being a supercardioid mic. And so if feedback is an issue for you, or you're picking up too much background splash into your microphones, well, maybe the Beta is the choice for you. And of course the Beta has the cool blue ring, which is always a plus. I hope that was an interesting examination of the SM versus the Beta series at this level of the product line. And hopefully it gives you a little bit of guidance if you're in the market for either one of these mics. If you're interested in these products, I'll put links down below where you can check out more about them and maybe make a purchase if you're so inclined. So thanks for watching the video. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope to see you again soon on another upcoming video. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you'd throw me a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed the content, super thanks is always super appreciated. And of course, to find this channel easier in the future, I would suggest subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks again. I'll catch you again soon.